All right, so no props necessary. We've got at-home practice. So if you have pillows or blankets, anything that you'd like to use for support, you can go ahead and use those. Otherwise, if you've got blocks or props or anything that you'd like to use for your practice, you're welcome to as well. But welcome to our 6 a.m. power flow. A little bit of dynamic movement, warming up the body this morning. We'll do a little bit of core work as well. Maybe some balance, haven't decided yet. But it is after 6 o'clock, so we'll come into our Shavasana, taking our time to just lay down to get comfortable. We've gotten out of bed, maybe moved into our lounge room or living room, and it's time to lay back down. So, taking these moments, the beginning of our practice, to check in, knowing that we wake up a little bit different each day. Maybe in the mornings a little bit more tight, a little bit more stiff in the muscles of the body. So just scanning ourselves from head to toe, noticing what's going on. How we're feeling energy-wise this morning. Whether we got a good sleep, a bad sleep, somewhere in between. We're not trying to bring ourselves into any ideal state or anything like that. We're taking this step back to just notice. Our practice of yoga is not to, like I said, force ourselves into a state or a posture, flexibility, mindset, anything like that. We're purely here to look after ourselves. And especially important if we're doing our power yoga, a stronger practice, moving more dynamically, especially in the mornings as well, that if we're challenging ourselves, we're doing so with a mindset of play, of listening to our body. Our body needs both the yin and the yang. It's not all about relaxation and stretching in yoga. Our body needs that strengthening as well as challenging ourselves. But if we do so, just noticing if we're forcing, if we're exerting too much effort, we're always coming from a place of self-care. As we bring our awareness into the breath, this yogic breath that we take, we draw in our inhales deep down to the belly. We feel it spread up into the chest, feeling the widening of our collarbones. As we exhale, releasing from the chest, down and out the belly. We're not trying to force or become rigid, controlling the breath, just allowing it to take its own natural rhythm, its own natural flow. As we inhale, we're taking in that life-giving oxygen. As we exhale, just letting go of any tension that we may have on our mat today. Letting go of any expectations that we have for ourselves or our practice. And remembering that self-care comes into our options through our practice, our modifications, anything that we'd like to take. We cultivate this sense of listening into the body, and using it to guide our practice so that we can modify wherever we'd like. Through our postures, or we can take rest at any time. Maybe just a few moments to come back to the breath. As we start to add a little wriggle to fingers and toes. Drawing those knees in towards the chest. If we're not in Shavasana, coming back to lay on our backs as we tuck these knees in. Starting with our sway, starting with our rock and roll, or circles, anything here. Warming into the hips, my favourite start. If we're desk workers, if we're seated a lot, it's just a beautiful way to start our practice, moving through these hips. And then my favourite way to start, lengthening out our right leg nice and long, coming into our twist. So bring this left knee across the body, lengthening out this left arm. If it's comfortable for the neck, gazing out over those fingertips. We're focusing on getting this opening from head to toe. So we're not lifting that left side of the body up off the mat. We're keeping it pressed in gently. On that in-breath, we draw into the belly, but still feeling it expand up. It'll help us open up this upper thoracic area. As we exhale, softening down through the hips, this left side of our lower back. And then returning back through center. Tucking this left knee in towards the chest. We're going to take hold of our left foot coming into our half happy baby. So if that's not available, maybe around this left calf or hamstring, if that's more comfortable. But just gently feeling this left knee lowering towards the mat beneath the armpit. Getting this opening across this inner left thigh. Maybe a little tightness through the hamstring. We're resting the head and the shoulders to the mat. Deep breaths. From here, we're going to bend this right knee, taking our left foot across into our thread the needle, this left arm coming through, interlace the fingers, drawing this right leg in towards the chest. As we do our pigeon later in the practice, if we've got hip or knee sensitivities, this is an option that we can take instead. Feeling into the glute, noticing how tight that's feeling this morning. And releasing this side out. We're going to lengthen our left leg out nice and long, taking this right knee across, right arm extending out. So checking in that right side of our upper body, keeping to the mat as we get this opening down our right side, across the lower back, through the hips. Take a deep breath in, feel it expand up through the chest. Exhale, letting go through the hips. We're not trying to push this right leg down, we're just letting gravity take hold of it. And seeing what we can let go of around these hip muscles. And returning our way back through center. So taking hold of this right foot, our half happy baby, so we can have peace fingers around the big toe. We can take the hand around the outside of the foot, or again that calf or hamstring option. The sole of the foot opening up towards the ceiling. And bringing that awareness back into the sound of our own breath. Already bending this left knee, this right foot coming across, our thread the needle, our right arm comes through this space, interlacing the fingers, drawing this left leg in towards the chest. Options, we can have the hands interlaced around the shin, the knee, or maybe the hamstring if that's more comfortable, or even just this right leg if we struggle to bring that left knee in for that leverage. Shoulders relaxing down. Let's release this side. We'll squeeze into our ball first. We'll tuck in nice and tight. A little left and right, loosening up through these hips first. And then coming to our reverse tabletop, bringing the knees over the hips, pointing the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Going to come into our dead bugs. So on an inhale, we're going to lengthen our left leg, right arm nice and long. Exhale, drawing that leg and arm back into center. So we're keeping this lower back imprinted to the mat. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, engaging through the core to draw that arm and leg in. Continuing to move with the breath. So nice long inhale. Exhale, contracting through the core. So we should have one set of fingertips pointing up towards the ceiling at all times. A little bit of coordination for our morning practice. Slow and controlled. If you'd like the extra challenge, you might like to take both hands and both legs out at the same time. If we're doing that, just being extra mindful as we take the legs out, if that lower back starts to arch off the mat, we're losing that core engagement, so use that point as our end range of motion. Don't take those legs any further. So we're feeling those front tips of the ribs drawing in towards the hips. We're closing that space. And coming back to center, tucking into our ball, that little left and right again. And back to middle, rock and roll, forwards and backwards this time, bringing ourselves up to seated. Sitting nice and tall, we'll inhale this left arm up and over, taking our side neck stretch. Use those inhales to lift us up a little further through the torso, a little longer through the spine. And releasing this side, turning our gaze, so we're looking past the armpit, that chin, tucking in to get this extra little bit of lengthening down that left side of the neck, or the back left side of our neck. This right hand can rest or extend to the side if that feels good, if we get that little deeper stretch. So inhales open through the chest. Exhales, softening down the back, starting with those shoulders, feeling the shoulder blades melt downward. Releasing this side, drawing our gaze back to center, we'll inhale this right arm up and over, taking this side neck. Full deep breaths. And gentle release, turning that head, tucking of the chin, opening up through the collarbones. Feeling that lengthening, that left side shoulder blade relaxing down. And releasing out here, let's work down the sides of the body. So we're going to inhale, hands rise. As we exhale, this right hand coming to mat, lengthening these left fingertips towards the side. As we inhale, come tall. Exhale, opposite side. Beautiful. Inhale, lift. Exhale, reaching across, getting this lengthening down that side. Continuing to move with the breath. We're grounding through these sit bones, so we don't want to lift up off the floor trying to reach further. We're just moving in time with the breath, creating as much length from the fingertips down towards that side hip, staying grounded down. One more time on each side. And then sweeping those hands down to center, walking forwards into our tabletop position. So we're facing the front of our mat, creating that space between the fingers, pressing the palms firm. On an inhale, we're going to drop the belly, opening the chest towards the front of our mat. On our exhale, tucking that tailbone under, rounding through the spine. Inhale, heart opens. Exhale, lifting the back of the heart up towards the ceiling. Inhale, open. Exhale, feeling that rounding, checking in with those upper vertebra, lower vertebra. And just taking 2 more breaths here. As we return back to our neutral spine, tucking our toes under, downward facing dog. Let's lift through these sit bones. Little pedal out of the legs if that feels good. That lengthening, that warming along the backs of the legs. My modification for this one is my downward puppy. I've spoken about my blood pressure previously. If we're holding our down dog, we can continue to pedal out or drawing those both heels towards the mat as we continue to lift through those sit bones. When we're ready, walking those feet to the front of our mat, as many steps as we'd like. See if we can press those heels towards the floor with each step, getting that extra little lengthening down the back of the calves, coming into our ragdoll. As much fold as we'd like, as much bend as we'd like through the knees. As we fold through the hips, let that head hang. Hands to elbows, opposite elbows as we sway side to side. Back to center, release fingertips to the mat. Inhale, half lift. We lengthen, keeping those shoulders drawn back as we exhale, folding deeply. Again, inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. This time, bending through the knees a little further. Press the feet into the floor as we inhale, rising up. Hands reach tall. As we exhale, we'll dive back over, keeping this heart open. Bending through the knees if we've got any tightness through that lower back as we inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Bend those knees again on our inhale, drawing up. Reaching through those fingertips on our exhale, this time open heart, adding our little back bend. Inhale, lift. Exhale, fold. Half lift, inhale. Hands to mat, stepping back, high plank. Holding here for a few breaths. So we're making sure that we're originating through the core. Originating through the core? I don't know what that meant. Starting, focusing, bringing our focus in towards the core first. That's a better way to explain it. So we're feeling those front tips of the hips draw into ribs. Lengthening, we feel that lengthening of the lower back as we tuck under. My favorite analogy, that sad puppy dog, that tailbone, that tail tucking between the legs creates that length, relieves the tension through the lower back as we start to work more through the core, while taking our smooth, steady breaths. Remember, we've got our alternative to drop to the knees, our modification, that extra little bit of support. On an inhale, drawing those shoulders a little bit further forward. Exhale, chaturanga, lowering down. As we inhale, taking our cobra or upward facing dog, opening through the front of the body with those shoulders relaxed, tuck the toes under, downward facing dog. Again, pedaling out here, or just drawing both of those heels down nice and long. This time, on an inhale, we'll draw our gaze forwards, bending through the knees, stepping or hopping our feet to front, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rising all the way up. Exhale, adding our back bend. Inhale, lift. Exhale, dive. half lift. Hands to mat, high plank, step or hop. Take a breath in at the top. Exhale, slow and steady as we make our way down. Inhale, open. Exhale, downward dog. Let's walk these hands back towards the feet. So we're grounding through the heels. We're going to take our half lift at the back of our mat here. Exhale, fold. Reverse the dive. Inhale, nice and tall, rising up. I'm going to watch out for my ceiling fan here. Exhale, open heart. Inhale, lift. Exhale, diving down, option for hands through heart center. If you've got a ceiling fan right above you too. Inhale, half lift. Hands to mat, high plank, walking forwards this time. Toes or knees. Setting ourselves up for this in-breath. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, open. Exhale, downward dog. Okay, let's get into our reverse chaturanga. So on this in-breath, we're coming to high plank. Toes or knees. Exhale, lowering down just as far as comfortable, because on our in-breath, we're going to do a big push-up. Beautiful. Again, exhale, lower. Hover, where we lower down to. Inhale, big push. Beautiful. 6 a.m. Thursday mornings. One more time. Exhale, lower. Little hover. Best in threes. Inhale, big press up. Exhale, downward dog. Gaze forwards, bend knees, step or hop, feet to front. Half lift. This is power yoga. Exhale, fold. Reverse the dive, rise it up, opening the heart. Exhale, a little further into our back bend. Inhale, lift. Exhale, dive. Half lift, flattening through that back. Hands to mat, high plank, step or hop. Soft with those feet, take our breath in. Exhale, chaturanga, all the way down. Inhale to our back bend. Exhale, downward dog. Okay, let's take these knees down to the mat, our child's pose. Little breather here, some relaxation through the shoulders and arms. Checking in any tension we've been holding there. Seeing if we can let it out with a nice big exhale. On our in-breath, coming back up to tabletop. Exhale, downward dog. On our inhale, we're going to take our left heel up to the sky. As we exhale, core engaged, drawing our knee towards the nose. Chin to chest. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale again. So crunching through those abdominals. Inhale, lift. This time as we exhale, stepping through that left foot between the hands, coming into our crescent lunge. Take our time, as many steps as we need to bring that foot forwards, rising ourselves tall, lengthening up the sides of the body. And seeing we lower down into these hips, shoulders, shoulder blades. Set our gaze on one still point. Drawing that tummy in, belly button in. Taking our inhale. On our exhale, we're going to fold forwards, reaching the fingertips towards the back of our room. Keeping this chest open as we inhale, lift. Exhale, fold. Option to continue moving in this way, or on our inhale, we can press off this back foot, drawing that right knee in towards the chest. Exhale, lowering that back foot to the mat, reaching those fingertips behind. Little balance and core work. Inhale, press off, lift tall. Exhale, slow and steady, controlled as we make our way back. So if we're taking this option, feel again into those front tips of the hips. I'm a broken record, feeling that lift, that space closes. And just flowing with the breath. Taking one more round here. On our next exhale, release that back foot to the mat. Using our in-breath, we'll rise up through fingertips. Exhale, frame the foot, stepping back, high plank. Moving through our flow here. Our breath is our pace. Inhale, right heel to sky. Exhale, knee to nose, chin to chest. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, tuck it in. One more time. Inhale, long. Exhale, stepping that foot between the hands. Take our time, settle ourselves. lift tall. Opening through that chest. Noticing if we have a tendency to sink into that lower back. Core work, lifting those front tips of hips. Gaze is steady, noticing if we can let go a little further through the shoulders. Strong through the legs, take that breath in. Exhale, fold forwards, reaching fingertips back. Inhale, open. Exhale, flow. Moving with this breath. We can keep both feet on the floor, or on this inhale, pressing off, drawing that knee tall, lengthening up. Exhale, slow and steady back. Watch out for my walls here. Might have to do the same at home. Inhale. I think my mat's a little bit off center. So if we're taking that option to lift the knee, as it comes up, so the movement comes through this left leg, but it's initiating it through those core muscles, those tummy muscles. One more time. Inhale, open, lift. Exhale, we're going to return that left foot back to the mat. On our in-breath, those arms coming tall. Exhale, frame the front foot, stepping back to plank. Take our breath in. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, downward dog. Let's gaze forwards, bend the knees, step or hop, feet to front. Half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise it up. Keeping these fingertips lengthened, scooting those feet together, bending through the knees, seated chair. That lower back is long. Option to come up onto the balls of the feet, maybe deepening a little bit lower. Steady breath, steady balance. Warming up through the quads. On our next in-breath, standing tall, ground through the heels, exhale, hands through heart center as we fold. Inhale, half lift. Hands to mat, step or hop back. Taking our vinyasa, our flow, finding our own pace here. Exhale, downward dog. Knees to mat, child's pose, taking this rest. Coming back into the breath. Noticing where our awareness is. So whether we had been drifting off into thought, future, past. Taking 2 more rounds of breath here. And then moving with our breath, coming into our down dog. If we'd like to, option to take an extra flow here. Taking our high plank and moving through our vinyasa. If we're coming straight into our down dog, maybe just spending a few extra breaths there. Either pedaling out, any movement through the hips, or resting into a little bit deeper. Let's gaze forwards, bend those knees, step or hop, feet to front. Half lift. Exhale, fold. Rise it up, press through the feet as we inhale. Taking our back bend, exhale. Inhale, tall. Exhale, fold. Half lift. Hands to mat, left foot stepping back, coming into our warrior 2. So we're bringing this left leg parallel with the back of our mat, coming to that 90-degree angle. Checking in this front knee is tracking over our front heel. Bringing that gaze over the front fingertips, lengthening nice and long. And maybe we can deepen into our lunge a little further. Let's flip this front palm, inhale, reverse our warrior. Exhale, windmill the arms, frame that front foot, step it back, high plank. Taking our flow. Once we're back in our down dog, gazing forwards, bend the knees, soft as we can, step or float, feet to front, half lift. Exhale, folding. Lifting tall. Opening up. Inhale, rise. Exhale, dive. Half lift to lengthen. Exhale, hands to mat. Right foot stepping back this time again, finding that 90 degrees. Windmilling these arms up, checking in with our alignment, especially that front knee tracking over the front heel. If we feel that we're shrugging through the shoulders, feeling those settle down a little further. Maybe getting that all the way down through the hips as well. Maybe sinking a little lower into our lunge. So we're not dumping our weight into the legs. We're nice and strong, engaged. Press through the pads of the feet. Flip the front palm, inhale, reverse. Exhale, frame the foot, step it back to plank. Take our flow, we know where we're going. This time we'll lower those knees to the mat. A little bit of core work, bringing those palms underneath the shoulders, tucking those toes under if we haven't already. And we're going to hover the knees off the mat. So a tabletop hover, it's a core exercise. It's like a plank, but a little bit more length through this lower back. So we're keeping the knees as close to the mat as we can without touching. So we don't want them all the way up with their bum in the air. Keep it low, lower back long, core engaged. So remembering that tucking of the tailbone, that sad puppy dog. Check in with the flow of the breath. How easy is it? And releasing those knees to the mat, walking our hands forwards, taking a little chest opening, thoracic opening. So we're opening this chest towards the mat. Either palms or forearms to the floor. Or if it's comfortable, we can come up onto the fingertips. I'd like to deepen into a little further. We can either rest the forehead or the chin to the mat. Check in with that neck. So as we inhale, we're opening through the chest. As we exhale, feeling if we can sink a little deeper. That tension around the shoulders, the upper back, through those chest muscles, seeing if we can soften it out. And let's walk these hands back into our tabletop position. We're going to inhale these right fingertips up to the sky. As we exhale, threading through. So we're going to reach these fingertips over, lowering that right shoulder down to the mat, resting the head. This left hand either for support, we can use forearm as well. Or if we'd like to take a little further into our twist, that left hand can rest in that right side hip crease. Getting this opening along the front of our right shoulder. And then returning this left hand to the mat, using it to press our way up to our tabletop. Inhale, left fingertips tall. Opening through the chest on that inhale, exhale, reaching over. So threading through, long through those fingertips, right arm option again. So either supporting or taking that further twist, head is rested. And that right hand coming back to mat, pressing up, coming into our tabletop position. Let's tuck these toes under, downward facing dog. We're going to inhale this left heel to sky. As we exhale, this left knee towards the left elbow. So working these side oblique abdominals now. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, knee to elbow. One more time. Inhale, long. This time as we exhale, we're going to step this left foot outside the left hand, coming into our lizard lunge. So our options here, we can stay elevated or releasing that back knee to the mat. We can deepen down through the torso, so on the inside of that left thigh. If we'd like to, we can take this left hand, reaching for this back foot, a little runner's lunge, or deepening into this right hip flexor. So if we're taking that hold, just make sure that thumb is pointing towards the ceiling. So we don't want to fold over. We want to keep open through the chest, open through the shoulder, taking hold of the outside of the foot, drawing that heel into hip. If we've lowered ourselves down, we can press back up through the hands. If we're taking hold of the back foot, releasing out. We're bringing both hands back to the inside of this left foot. We're going to tuck our back toes under as slowly or as quickly as we'd like. We're going to do a step hop change. So that left foot back, right foot outside the right hand. So take as many steps as we'd like to get there. And once we're there, we're going back. So step or hop, changing behind. That belly button drawn in, so it's keeping the core engaged. Step hop, other side. Beautiful. This is our movement. Check in with that body if we're practicing early in the morning, or if we've got that tightness through our mobility in the hips. Taking it slow and steady. If we'd like to warm up a little bit more through the hips and legs, softly as we can, stepping, hopping, either side. One more time, finishing that left foot outside the left hand, keeping those back toes tucked under. Inhale, left heel to sky. Exhale, downward dog. Inhale, right heel low. Exhale, right knee to right elbow. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, so working that side, those side obliques. Inhale, long. Last one, exhale, stepping that foot outside the right hand this time. Same options this side. It might be different from one side to the other. We can elevate, lower, deepen. So if we're lowering down, we're not leading with the head or chest. We're leading with the hips. So we're getting this opening across the hips. Option as well, if we'd like to take that right hand back. Keeping that open shoulder position out, we call it our hitchhiker's thumb. Takes hold of the outside of the foot. Maybe taking a breather here after our lunge changes there. Bring a little bit of extension into that breath. Filling the lungs with oxygen. Noticing, so we've probably got this tightness in the hip flexors. We're getting this opening across the hips. Noticing now if we're still holding any tension through this upper body as well. See if we can just relax that out. All right, we're ready. If we've lowered down, pressing back up, we've got that back foot, releasing out, lowering it to the mat, tucking those toes under, elevate that back knee, stepping or hopping. Opposite side, we know our flow now. Take our time. So we're warming up through these hips, this mobility. We might start with steps and move to hops. We might even start with hops and prefer to move into steps. How many did we do the other side? I don't remember. We'll just keep going until we can't do any more. Maybe. All right, let's do one more each side. Returning back, that right foot outside the right hand. Keeping those back toes tucked under. Inhale, three-legged dog. Exhale, downward dog. Little pedal out, little movement. We can hold this as long as we like, or when we're ready, coming back down into our child's pose. Taking this rest. So do a little scan all the way from the crown of the head through the different areas of the body, all the way down to the toes. Noticing where it is that we're holding onto that tension the most. Start there, ease it out. And now in-breath, coming back to our tabletop. Yogi's choice, either moving through a flow, or we can come straight back to our down dog. Once we've made our way back, we're going to come into our pigeon pose. So we're going to inhale, I'm going to scoot forward here a little. Inhale this left heel to sky. Taking our pigeon, this left foot towards the right wrist. That left knee towards the left elbow. Lengthen that right leg. And easing our way down. If we've got our cushions, pillows, blankets rolled up, anything for support here, we can have it laying under the torso, or maybe just resting the head on top, or perhaps the back of the hands, or resting out to the mat. If we'd like to lengthen those arms out long, we can. But our focus is through the hips. Our focus is not doing anything through the hips. Seeing if there's anything we can undo. So if we'd like to deepen the stretch, we can bring that left foot a little bit further towards that right elbow. And when we're ready, pressing our way back up. Yogi's choice of transition. We're coming back. We're going to move into our other side. So if you'd like to come straight into our other side, we can. If we'd like to flow, we can. If we'd like to take a three-legged dog, just extending out through the backs of the legs, we can. But we're taking our opposite side. So remembering, this is our pigeon pose. So that alternative I went through at the beginning, our thread the needle, got the option to take that one again here. Just keep that left side hip low this time if we feel ourselves. So obviously not being in a studio, we don't have that teacher feedback. So we really got to get aware, that proprioception, that body awareness. If that left hip is lifting, first of all, we can take that foot back a bit. It'll ease off the tension so that we can lower down. So we're keeping that left side low, squaring through these hips. Take another body scan, head to toe. Spend some time when you reach down to those hips, really feeling into where we feel the tension, where we feel the tightness. Whether there's anything there that we can consciously let go of. Use our out breath. Okay, let's walk it back on up. Transitioning how we'd like to back into our down dog. Could be our last opportunity for a flow this morning. Getting to that time. Once we've made our way back into our downward dog, we're going to walk the hands a little bit closer together. And then gazing forwards, bend the knees, stepping or hopping our feet outside the hands. So we're coming into our yogi squat. I have very poor heel mobility, so my heels are going to raise, but if you can, ground through the heels. Taking those hands to heart center, using those elbows to leverage open through the hips. We can either press those palms firm or we can press through the fingertips, deepening a little. If we'd like to take our arm balance this morning, our crow, we can place those hands to mat or on the floor just in front, widening through the fingers, creating that space, lifting through the sit bones so that we can place the knees to the back of the upper arm, transferring that weight forwards. And just have a little play with our balance, keeping that gaze steady. So either option, holding our crow, we can come in and out of it. We can hold our yogi squat if we prefer taking this hip opening. If we've taken our crow, lowering those feet down to the mat, and we can place either one hand or both behind so we can lower those hips to mat. Let's scoot these feet forwards, grounding through the hips, taking our boat pose, lengthening through the fingertips. Option to elevate through the feet, check in with the shoulders, relaxing down, opening through the chest. One more deep breath in here. On our exhale, using it to lower ourselves down. Steady as we can. And let's relax at the bottom. Let's take our knees into chest, curling into our ball, adding that sway side to side. Coming into middle, taking our happy baby. So both feet this time. Hands can either, again, peace fingers around the big toes, hands around the outside of the feet. If we're tight through those hammies or flexibility through the hips, maybe hands over the backs of the hamstrings. And we can rest into this, letting those knees sink towards the floor, or we might like to give ourselves a little back massage, rolling gently into those muscles of the middle and upper back. Check out where that feels tight. Oh, I've always got some in my traps. It's always a nice one to finish off with. And back to middle. Squeezing into our ball. Nice and tight, tucking those knees in. Add a little sway left and right again. And then lowering those feet to mat. We can either come into our Supta Baddha Konasana. It'll be our last one before Shavasana. So if there's anything else that you'd like to move into, if an inversion's part of your practice, you're welcome to take that. Anything else you feel the body needs. We're taking our reclined bound angle, soles of the feet to touch, knees opening to the sides. We can rest one hand to the tummy and chest. If we'd like to tune in a little further into that breath. Or we might like to rest the hands by the sides or up overhead to opposite elbows. from wherever we may be, coming back to our final rest, our Shavasana, if we're taking that reclined bound angle, bringing those legs back together, extending out through the legs and the arms, loosening through the toes and fingers, getting ourselves comfortable. The work is done. Any little adjustments, any final movements. Just coming into this position of full rest. Taking these last few minutes to ourselves. Starting to bring our awareness back into the body. Adding a little movement to fingers and toes. So we inhale, reaching those arms all the way along overhead. Taking that big, long lengthening. And then rolling to one side. Gently making our way up to seated. Getting ourselves comfortable. Maybe sitting a little bit taller, lifting through the crown of the head. Bringing our hands to heart center. Now check in, noticing how we felt when we first checked in on our mats at the beginning of our practice, compared to how we feel now, mentally, physically. I'm just grateful to ourselves for coming to our mats, for listening to our bodies, and taking this time to practice self-care. As we bow our heads to our hands, we honour ourselves and each other with Namaste. Namaste, yogis. Thank you very much for practicing with me this morning. That's bang on 7 o'clock.